my hands filled when sustenance was needed for the souls of my sisters. But had I done otherwise, and relied on my own strength, I should very soon have been forced to abandon my task. From afar it seems so easy to do good to souls, to teach them to love God more, and to model them according to one's own ideas. But when we draw nearer, we quickly feel that without God's help this is quite as impossible as to bring back the sun when once it has set. We must forget ourselves and put aside our tastes and ideas, and guide souls not by our own way, but along the path which our Lord points out. Even this is not the most difficult part. What costs me more than all is having to observe their faults, their slightest imperfections, and wage war against them. Unhappily for me, I was going to say, but that would be cowardly, so I will say, happily for my sisters, ever since I placed myself in the arms of Jesus, I have been like a watchman on the lookout for the enemy from the highest turret of a fortified castle. Nothing escapes my vigilance. Indeed, I am sometimes surprised at my own clear-sightedness, and I think it was quite excusable in the prophet Jonas to fly before the face of the Lord, that he might not have to announce the ruin of Nineveh. Rather than make one single reproach, I would prefer to receive 1,000. Yet I feel it is necessary that the task should cause me pain. For if I spoke only through natural impulse, then the soul in fault would not understand its defects and would simply think, "This sister is displeased, and her displeasure falls on me although I am full of the best intentions." But in this, as in all else, I must practice sacrifice and self-denial. Even in the matter of writing a letter, I feel that it will produce no fruit, unless I am disinclined to write, and only do so from obedience. When conversing with a novice I am on the watch to mortify myself, and I avoid asking questions which would satisfy my curiosity. If she begins to speak on an interesting subject, and, leaving it unfinished, passes on to another that wearies me, I take care not to remind her of the interruption, for it seems to me that no good can come of self-seeking. I know, dear Mother, that your little lambs find me severe. If they were to read these lines, they would say that, so far as they can see, it does not distress me to run after them, and show them how they have soiled their beautiful white fleece, or torn it in the brambles. Well, the little lambs may say what they like. In their hearts they know I love them dearly. There is no fear of my imitating the hireling who seeth the wolf coming and leaveth the sheep, and flieth. John 10:12. I am ready to lay down my life for them, and my affection is so disinterested that I would not have my novices know this. By God's help, I have never tried to draw their hearts to myself, for I have always understood that my mission was to lead them to Him and to you, dear Mother, who on this earth hold His place in their regard, and whom, therefore, they must love and respect. I said before that I have learnt much by guiding others. In the first place, I see that all souls have more or less the same battles to fight, and on the other hand, that one soul differs widely from another, so each must be dealt with differently. With some I must humble myself, and not shrink from acknowledging my own struggles and defeats. Then they confess more readily the faults into which they fall, and are pleased that I know by experience what they suffer. With others, my only means of success is to be firm, and never go back on what I have once said. Self-abasement would be taken for weakness. Our Lord has granted me the grace never to fear the conflict. At all costs I must do my duty. I have more than once been told, "If you want me to obey, you must be gentle and not severe. Otherwise you will gain nothing." But no one is a good judge in his own case. During a painful operation, a child will be sure to cry out, and say that the remedy is worse than the disease, but if after a few days he is cured, then he is greatly delighted that he can run about and play. And it is the same with souls. They soon recognize that a little bitter is better than too much sweet, and they are not afraid to make the acknowledgment. Sometimes the change which takes place from one day to another seems almost magical. A novice will say to me, "You did well to be severe yesterday. At first I was indignant, but when I thought it all over, I saw that you were quite right. I left your cell thinking, 'This ends it. I will tell our mother that I shall never go to Sor Thérèse again.' But I knew this was the devil's suggestion, and then I felt you were praying for me, and I grew calm. I began to see things more clearly, and now I come to you for further guidance. I am only too happy to follow the dictates of my heart, and hasten to console with a little sweetness, but I see that one must not press forward too quickly. A word might undo the work that cost so many tears. If I say the least thing which seems to tone down the hard truths of the previous day, I see my little sister trying to take advantage of the opening thus given her. At once I have recourse to prayer. I turn to our Blessed Lady, and Jesus always triumphs. Verily, in prayer and sacrifice lies all my strength. They are my invincible arms. Experience has taught me that they touch hearts far more easily than words. 2 years ago, during Lent, a novice came to me smiling and said, "You would never imagine what I dreamt last night. I thought I was with my sister, who is so worldly, and I wanted to withdraw her from all vain things. To this end I explained the words of your hymn, 'They richly lose those who love Thee, dearest Lord. Thine are my perfumes, Thine for evermore.'" I felt that my words sank deep into her soul, and I was overjoyed. This morning it seems to me that perhaps our Lord would like me to gain Him this soul. How would it do if I wrote at Easter and described my dream, telling her that Jesus desires to have her for His spouse? I answered that she might certainly ask permission. As Lent was not nearly over, you were surprised, dear Mother, at such a premature request, and, evidently guided by God, you replied that Carmelites should save souls by prayer rather than by letters. When I heard your decision, I said to the little sister, "You must set to work and pray hard. If our prayers are answered at the end of Lent, what a joy it will be!" O infinite mercy of our Lord! At the close of Lent, one soul more had given herself to God. It was a real miracle of grace, a miracle obtained through the fervour of a humble novice. How wonderful is the power of prayer! It is like unto a queen, who, having free access to the King, obtains whatsoever she asks. In order to secure a hearing there is no need to recite set prayers composed for the occasion. Were it so, I ought indeed to be pitied. Apart from the Divine Office, which in spite of my unworthiness is a daily joy, I have not the courage to look through books for beautiful prayers. I only get a headache because of their number, and besides, one is more lovely than the other. Unable therefore to say them all, and lost in choice, I do as children who have not learnt to read. I simply tell our Lord all that I want, and He always understands. With me, prayer is an uplifting of the heart, a glance towards heaven, a cry of gratitude and love, uttered equally in sorrow and in joy. In a word, it is something noble, supernatural, which expands my soul and unites it to God. Sometimes, when I am in such a state of spiritual dryness that not a single good thought occurs to me, I say very slowly the Our Father or the Hail Mary, and these prayers suffice to take me out of myself, and wonderfully refresh me. But what was I speaking of? Again I am lost in a maze of my reflections. Forgive me, dear Mother, for wandering thus. My story is like a tangled skein, but I fear I can do no better. I write my thoughts as they come. I fish at random in the stream of my heart, and offer you all that I catch. I was telling you about the novices. They often say, "You have an answer for everything." This time I thought I should puzzle you. Where do you find all that you teach us? Some are even simple enough to think I can read their souls, because at times it happens I discover to them, without revelation, the subject of their thoughts. The senior novice had determined to hide from me a great sorrow. She spent the night in anguish, keeping back her tears lest her eyes might betray her. Yet she came to me with a smile next day, seeming even more cheerful than usual, and when I said, "You are in trouble, I am sure," she looked at me in inexpressible amazement. Her surprise was so great that it reacted on me, and imparted a sense of the supernatural. I felt that God was close to us. Unwittingly, for I have not the gift of reading souls, I had spoken as one inspired, and was able to console her completely. And now, dear Mother, I will tell you wherein I gain most with the novices. You know they are allowed without restriction to say anything to me, agreeable or the reverse. This is all the easier since they do not owe me the respect due to a novice mistress. I cannot say that our Lord makes me walk in the way of exterior humiliation. He is satisfied with humbling me in my inmost soul. In the eyes of creatures all is success, and I walk in the dangerous path of honour, if a religious may so speak. I understand God's way, and that of my superiors in this respect. For if the community thought me incapable, unintelligent, and wanting in judgment, I could be of no possible use to you, dear Mother. This is why the Divine Master has thrown a veil over all my shortcomings, both interior and exterior. Because of this veil I receive many compliments from the novices. compliments without flattery, for they really mean what